Turning to the craziness going on in D.C., and frankly, it's not crazy. It's high time that somebody did something about D.C. Well, Donald Trump means business. He's laying down the law, and you know what? He's got Jeanine Pirro by his side. You remember Judge Jeanine. Well, now she is the U.S. attorney in D.C., and she's good. Like this woman is good. She's highly experienced. I love seeing her in this because I'm used to seeing her, in the television environment and worked with her at Fox. But and she's obviously very good on TV. But this is her sweet spot. And she was always a prosecutor. She's got the background. She became a judge, and she knows what she's doing. And right now, as they try and lay down the law and they clean up the situation there in D.C., they've got Judge Jeanine on their side, and she let the media have it. Here, I want to show you from the press conference yesterday, Jeanine Pirro saying exactly what the issue is. Take a peek.
We all want the same thing. We all want a safe city. We want a safe capital. We want to be able to bring our families here. We want to be able to come and enjoy the history that makes this place great. And unfortunately, we are not in that position right now. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for taking the step that we need right now to make criminals understand that they are not going to get away with it anymore. And I'm not going to stand here and go over and over the cases. But what I can tell you is this. I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. I convict someone. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the D.C. Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens. And it starts today. But it's not going to end today, because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is through the state attorney general, Brian Schwab, because I can't arrest them, I can't prosecute them. They go to family court, and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today.
She's so good. Okay, she's just so good. I love seeing her in this position right now. But I'll tell you, the thugs that she's talking about, watch out, because they're out to change this. These homicide rates are out of control. We've talked about this for the last week, right? DC having a murder rate of 41 per 100,000. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You look at Nairobi, for goodness sakes, it's 5. You wouldn't have thought that, right? You look at Lima. Hey, go to Lima. It's only 7 per 100,000. Mexico City, only 8 per 100,000. Think about that. This is our nation's capital. As she said, where you want to be able to take your family. She totally gets it. JCG, the word is, saying, you know what, Jeanine Pirro gets it, and she means business, and you're right, okay? You're right. So she's going to, within the confines of the law, work with the president to try and clean this up. She mentions that she can't do a lot because, Brian, in his position as the state AG there, or the district DC AG, it's a little bit different, because it's not actually technically a state. But anyway, he's the AG, and he's prosecuting juveniles, but they're sending them all to yoga camps because of this, DEI thing where you're supposed to feel bad for people and reform and this, that, and the other. And she's like, no, I've had enough. And the president has certainly had enough. You heard what he said the other day about the slums. And I'll tell you guys, you know what? The people of DC, they deserve something better. Watch this.
And we're getting rid of the slums, too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Let's see if we can get our camera back up for you. Let's see here. Can you guys still hear me? I'll ask you in real time if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me? You can now see me, I think. We'll see. Again, I told you I was blaming Elon if anything happened. But the DC thing is really remarkable what's going on. So they want to clean this up, and they have the legal power to do this. They've got Jeanine Pirro out there taking it on. You saw Pete Hegseth by the president's side. I think they're actually going to be able to accomplish something. I think this is a really, really big deal. It's important at this moment in time. Nobody likes it. The New York Times saying, oh, you know what? This crime rate, this really isn't as bad as you all think. Well, did you ever think for any reason at all that maybe there might have been an incentive to possibly report some numbers that were not entirely truthful? They're like, oh, the murder rate, it's down to where it was in 2019. Woohoo! They're like celebrating it at the New York Times and saying there's really no reason to be concerned. But I'll tell you, when you've got even CNN, remember, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. When you've got even CNN out there saying, no, 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 here's the truth about DC. Even though those numbers are showing you one thing, the reality is something else entirely. I want to share with you what the CNN host said to Democrat Jamie Raskin, who totally put him on his heels. It shows you what a brilliant political issue this really and truly is, because the CNN host is like, and I don't think you can get more left than this lady that's about to come on. I don't know her name, but I've seen her a few times, and she's really uber duper left. So she gets out there and she's like, yeah, you're all saying this, but look, we're in DC and we feel it. We feel the crime rates and the challenges of that. Take a peek.
But people don't always feel the statistics, right? Do you, as someone who works in the District of Columbia, you drive through it all the time, you know a lot of people who live here all the time, do you feel like crime is down in DC compared to other more recent years?
Well, definitely when you compare it to other periods in the history of Washington D.C. when there was very serious spikes in crime and it felt really dangerous to go out. But look, I agree. You can't feel safe enough, especially these days. The question is who you trust to promote your security and public safety. Is it the mayor and the council and the people who actually report to people who live there? Or do you trust Donald Trump to do that? Because, his attention span is like, 32 seconds. And then he's going to be off to talking about the tariffs, or he's going to be off and talking about something in Los Angeles or whatever. I mean, you've got to trust the local officials to do this. And, there's something that's very fraudulent about what's taking place. He also
Something very fraudulent that's taking place. I don't know. The guy actually wants to clean up DC. And you guys have a problem with that? You get CNN hosts that are like, you all tell us that things are better, but they really don't feel better in DC because we live here and we kind of know, right? And an ABC reporter said the exact same thing. And yet you look at the talking points. Someone sent me this. Every Democrat in the world is like, oh no, things are great. The crime numbers aren't what you think, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Everybody who lives in D.C. feels the same thing. I'm going to share with you what Kira Phillips said. Again, from ABC, she happens to be married to John Roberts, the Fox reporter. So, maybe she's not as biased as the rest of them over there. But take a listen to her because she's just admitting reality, like completely going rogue, similar to the CNN lady. Take a peek.
We've been talking so much about the numbers, and yeah, usually that's how you play devil's advocate, is you talk about, oh, well, stats say crime is down. However, I can tell you firsthand here in downtown D.C. where we work, right here around our bureau, just in the past 6 months, there were 2 people shot. One person died, literally 2 blocks down here from the bureau. It was within the last 2 years that I actually was jumped walking just 2 blocks down from here. And then just this morning, one of my coworkers said her car was stolen a block away from the bureau. So we can talk about the numbers going down, but crime is happening every single day because we're all experiencing it firsthand while working and living down here.
Driving home, my staff who lives here in the Hill reminded me, don't stop at a stoplight until I'm out of town. If I see a red light late at night, since there's very little traffic, slow up at the other block so I never come to a full stop except in the middle of the block because of carjackings. Stopping at a light, people standing at a corner, walking up with a gun.
Wow. Okay. So that's fine, right? Back in 1992, saying things were bad. So things have always been bad. Like you can go back to 2019. I don't think that's going to help you. Maybe you've got some better statistics from 2019. Maybe right now you got some better statistics because there's been this pressure, if you would, on law enforcement to not actually report what's really going on. But if you look at what the labor head of the DC police union has said, they're very concerned. They're very concerned that things are not being properly reported. And I realize everybody's like, oh, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. But hey, you know what? Don't take my word for it. Again, go back to what the CNN reporter who lives in D.C. is saying. Go back to the ABC News reporter who lives in D.C. They clearly have their own biases there at that network, and yet they're coming out and admitting that. And I think it's a brilliant political issue. It's really brilliant because it leaves the Democrats once again on defense. In the first Trump administration, he was always on defense because of Russia, Russia, Russia. And now he's totally turned the tables. And he's doing things like, okay, we're going to fix D.C. And the Democrats are like, no, you can't fix D.C. And he's like, oh, yeah? How much do you want to bet? We can fix D.C. And guess what else? The people want us to fix D.C. I mean, that's the amazing thing, right? So he's on the side of the people on this one. And so think about the brilliance from a political standpoint, because what it's doing is it's exposing the Democrats for the resist movement that they're embracing to the point where they're not even willing, it seems, to do the right thing vis-a-vis trying to help, right? Trying to help clean up a community that so badly, desperately needs it. There was a woman who was interviewed on Fox, who came right out and said, you know what? We need this. We need this because, she said, for example, I'm older and I got to get to and from work. And right now it's really scary. Like it is really scary. And it sucks to have to live in that kind of environment. I mean, what kind of freedom do you have, right? If your kids can't get to and from school without having to worry about the very basics. And that's what's going on. It's the very, very, very basics. And so a lot of people have come out, and we've seen this on social media. They are thrilled that somebody's doing something finally. And that's why I'm saying it is a brilliant political issue. Absolutely spectacular, because we're basically seeing front and center what these folks are really about. In the meantime, even the mayor is like basically saying, yeah, we'll work with them, right? We have to work with them. And she's smart, politically speaking, because if she comes out and says, I'm going to resist this, I don't want Donald Trump, I don't want his help, then what's going on? I mean, shouldn't you want all the help you can get if you're dealing with a crime rate like the one we saw? So everyone on MSNBC is like, but, and she's like, well, So I like this because she's being a little bit of a realist. I mean, we'll get to I see what you guys are saying in the chat about the woman who is in charge of the police union, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, here is the mayor, Muriel.
One of the things that we have seen over and over from the president, from his team, Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well, and people enjoy a great quality of life. And I think we're doing a really good job. We do need the federal government's help, as I mentioned, because they have an outsized influence on our criminal justice system. We need more prosecutors. We need more judges. There are other ways to help. Even we want to rebuild our jail, and there are ways that the feds can help with that. But also just doing their part, cutting the grass, fixing the fountains, making sure that federal law enforcement is doing all of the policing that they can do. And I just have to say thank you to MPS, FBI, ATF, who've always worked cooperatively with us, and we expect that they will again.
Okay, that's like brilliant politics. So she's being smart there. But a lot of Democrats, you heard Jamie Raskin, they're falling into the trap. They're falling into the trap, and don't take my word for it. Go to a Democrat like Chris Matthews, who was on MSNBC, saying exactly the same thing this morning, saying they're falling into this trap of trying to defend an indefensible crime record. And so now they're making it, it's all about race. Rev Sharpton saying that, and NPR saying all that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not a time to be talking about race, because who do you think, if you're black and you're living in a community and you're being terrorized by these teenagers that are running around, and they describe them here in this NPR piece as criminals, in this case often teenagers, many of them black. Washington has struggled at times with violence caused by young men who sometimes ride motorcycles and four-wheelers. They're like trying to paint this picture of, okay, it's really not that big a deal. Well, let me tell you, if you live there, if you're one of the families that's been affected by this, you better believe it's a big deal. And this is what Jeanine Pirro was saying. For every single family that has suffered a loss, it is a big frickin' deal. So Democrats are stupid, once again, politically speaking. I mean, that 28% is going to go down to 18% before you know it. Trump has them totally backed into a corner because they're trying to defend this indefensible crime record and trying to make it about something it's not. And people see through it. They see through it so fast. So this was actually really smart for the administration to tackle this. I don't know if they had planned to do this or if this was just recent, but it's really smart because they have the legal ability and the legal standing to be able to do this. I would say the mayor is trying to play both sides here. She knows that she's up against it, and that if she comes out as being against the federal government's help, well, by the way, don't most Democrats want more federal government? They want all the federal government, all the money they can possibly get, except when it's Trump offering to help, then they don't want it. You understand how this exposes them so badly from a political perspective. Meanwhile, and I'm seeing in some of your comments right now that you're concerned about this DC police chief, and you have right to be concerned about Pamela Smith, because there are some real questions about why it is that Pamela Smith has the job. I mean, you can probably go back over the last 10, 20 years and say, why do some of these people have this job? But in this particular case, it's believed that this is somebody who was put there for one reason and one reason only. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. I was really struck. I'm like, wait a second. She was a dog trainer? Yeah, a police dog trainer. She was running the K-9 unit, apparently. She was a park ranger. So she worked on the park team. And then she was training drivers. She was also a social worker, having been apparently a foster child herself. She went to work in Staten Island in the foster care system, rehabilitating juveniles. So you see where this is going. I mean, if you're trying to crack down on the juveniles that are such a problem in D.C., then maybe you need somebody in charge of the police force that cares as much about cracking down on juveniles as this woman does on rehabilitating them. So Pamela Smith is being criticized from all directions. Again, here's the dog trainer bit. This is unbelievable. She joined the K-9 unit in New York as a K-9 handler. Wow. Whoop-de-doo, okay? And then she was an instructor at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, Law Enforcement Driver Training Program down in Georgia. Woo, not exactly the kinds of things that you would expect of somebody who's about to become a police chief. And then here's this one. She somehow became head of DEI for the police in D.C., and from there, what do you know? She gets the big gig. So she's just like an HR person, right? Who's a social worker, who's now in charge of DC police. Are you kidding me? Nothing against her. I'm sure she's a perfectly nice person, but this is not the kind of qualifications that you would actually deem necessary, right, for such an important job. So what's going on? Well, we know what's going on. I mean, it was DEI City, right? Well, Donald Trump has actually challenged all of that. That's being challenged. I mean, Harvard had to learn the hard way, right? A lot of these universities paying big, big fines, learning the hard way that doesn't fly. So they're all up a creek without a paddle, and minus, in the case of Columbia University, $200 million in their case. I mean, they're all paying fines one after another. Harvard is still fighting it, but the DEI thing is not flying. And so this is who is in charge of the DC police. I mean, I'm sorry. ABC is learning the hard way too, right? Brandon Carr talking about how DEI has got to go. I mean, it's part of why I started 76 Research. Quick shout out for my firm. Inflation coming in at 2.7%. Don't tell the New York Times, oh my gosh, or Bloomberg. They were just chomping at the bit, trying to hope for lots and lots of inflation. And of course, they spawned this as, oh, it's tariffs. But I'll tell you what, the market went up. The market went up because Investors are still encouraged. And as I look at the market today, you get a NASDAQ that's flat, you get the S&P that's a little bit higher right now, you get the Dow Jones up about 0.6%. So there's still a ton of optimism out there. I encourage you to invest right now. Go to 76research.com. This is my company. I started with a friend and now colleague there at 76 Research. And we just have lots of good ideas for you. Lots and lots of good ideas. We even have portfolios, actually. There's 3 of them. American Resilience. Take a look at that. One of our tech picks up 84%. We've got a tech stock, another one up 54%. Inflation protection. If you look at some of the materials stocks, we have industrials, all of this, energy stocks and the income builder being for people who are more conservative. There's a lot there to be looking at. So I encourage you to go to 76 Research, use my code word dollar, sign up at least for the $1 a month for the first 2 months, goes to $9.95 thereafter for the 76 report.